I feel like much of the discourse around curating your personal style online centers around buying something to solve a problem. However, that won't make you stylish, and all it's going to do is add more noise into your existing wardrobe. So let's chat today about personal style, about why buying these things isn't going to solve your problem, about trends that we're likely to see filtering into the stores in the next sort of 6 months or so. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you some useful, tangible information that you can take away for your own personal style journey. In part, I do kind of feel like capsule wardrobes are to blame, or at least more so this curation of the perfect capsule, because as we all know, the perfect wardrobe does not exist. And as someone who has gone through periods of not shopping and then also shopping a lot, what I've found is when I've not shopped at all, I've actually been the happiest with my wardrobe. And the thing that I found during those periods of not buying anything is that I really just felt at peace with what I had, because I realized this is what I had to work with, and I will figure out how I can best use that to my benefit. As opposed to when you are buying new things, yes, you're buying new items, but you haven't really figured out that equation of where this item truly fits into your wardrobe. And if you continue that stream of new things, then you're going to find that you have all of these items that have just become stuff in your wardrobe as opposed to becoming a wardrobe bestie. So let's chat about trends and why these will not be the thing that make you stylish. And first of all, I really want to talk about boho chic, because I keep seeing this popping up, and in particular, suede everything. Now, I am not going to say that I have not been tempted by this. I did actually go out and buy a men's suede shirt, and more so for the fact that I've realized these longer shirt style jackets are actually the thing that I really like in my wardrobe, and it was a way for me to add in another texture. But it does come with a caveat in that suede is actually quite difficult and costly to maintain and look after. It needs to be taken to a specialist dry cleaner and can cost upwards of $150 in order to clean. So for me, I know it's something I will not be wearing around my children anytime soon. And the same thing goes for suede bags. So you really need to make sure that you are actually protecting these things. But yes, it adds another texture in, but are you prepared to do the work and look after it and maintain it, you know, when you are putting it away, not throwing it on the floor, but actually hanging it up? Because suede does really soften quite a lot, and you can distort the shape if you aren't putting it away carefully. So we're probably going to see this coming through in suede jackets even more, but also a lot more suede bags also for spring, summer, and not just autumn, winter, and suede skirts as well. And I feel like suede skirts is definitely the one area where I think I would probably end up getting that thing dirty, but that is boho chic. So do you need it? Probably not. It's expensive, and it's also expensive to look after. We have a couple of color trends here, and I always find these really interesting because what I have noticed over the past few years is that the color trends are directly linked to overall themes that we usually see in that season. So for example, in the spring and summertime, specifically in spring, we'll often see a shift to pastels, lighter colors that sort of give us a bit of a reprieve from those really rich dialed up colors of autumn and winter. And so we're seeing key color trends of butter yellow and then also a pale ballerina pink. And they both just scream kind of Easter pastels to me. They feel very safe, and you probably already have something like this in your wardrobe. I think these can serve as really nice neutrals in your wardrobe, but I implore you to actually consider the overall color palette, because this is going to be the key to actually creating outfits that are cohesive and consistent over time. So I already know what my key colors are, I know what my problem colors are, and I know what I tend to wear on a daily, weekly basis, just from the fact that I do track what I wear every single day. And that is really useful information, and definitely something to be considering when you are thinking about whether or not you're going to inject one of these colors into your wardrobe. There can be small ways to participate in the trend, like looking at makeup and nail polish as an option, or even just small accessories like keychains, little purses, or even a smaller, inexpensive bag. Something I notice a lot of is that the common themes that are coming up in these trends is that there is a real harking back to tradition, things that feel comforting and make us feel safe. And this is very common in times of uncertainty, when we're unsure what lies ahead with all of the things that are happening in the world. So it really doesn't actually surprise me that some of these trends are on this list. So looking at Chintz florals. Again, this is nothing groundbreaking, as Miranda Priestly would say, florals for spring, groundbreaking, but we see this coming back every single spring season, often reimagined in some way to differentiate it from the year prior. These chintzy tapestry florals feel a little bit old-fashioned in a way, maybe remind you of something that you may have seen at your grandparents' house when you were younger, and so you can see that real kind of comforting element. And I suspect the key way we're going to see this coming through as a trend is in dresses, really quite feminine dresses as well. I think it's also worth noting that leaning in on these trends that are a little bit more comforting and a little bit less unexpected is also slightly more conservative as well. And I think part of that leans into this whole concept of conformity, the color of the year being mocha brown, or was it mocha mousse? There's some really interesting conversations around this actually, and maybe I can link some of those things down in the description box below in case you're curious. Another one of the trends that I noticed, which kind of leans onto that tradition, that sense of comfort, that kind of nostalgia element which we might seek out in times of uncertainty, is the 90s plaid. You know, punk, the grunge era, Nirvana, and I think we're going to see a lot of these plaid shirts, but also probably seeing it come through in the skirts as well. Thinking a little bit about that Vivienne Westwood style. I did see that tulle is going to be another trend, and while I don't anticipate this being one that we see broadly adopted, as it's quite a specific trend, I think plaid is one that we might see out and about, and I think if you were to combine the two trends, you'd have something that would be very Vivienne Westwood, kind of Jenny from Gossip Girl sort of a feel. The funny thing is you probably already have something like this in your wardrobe. I think flannel shirts in particular, especially if you live somewhere cold, they tend to be a wardrobe workhorse, and because this is such a specific type of item, I think if it's not really within your usual style repertoire, it is going to feel like it's coming from left field. So if you already have it in your wardrobe, lean in on that. I think take advantage of the fact that it's a trend moment, maybe find yourself a new one if that's what you're after, but if it's not really your vibe, just stick to your lane, because that is going to be where you find your real personal style. Okay, next trend is just an absolute no from me. It is hot pants, and apparently this is something that's going to be adopted a lot by Gen Z. I can see that for sure. I feel like this reminds me of the Geordie Shore era, and it was never something that I would wear. It just kind of feels like you're wearing your undies out in public. This is just my personal hot take on it. But yes, apparently it's the new mini skirt, and it's going to be worn with fancy tops and cardigans. This is something I can't really see catching on, and this is the type of trend that I feel like when you're older, you look back and go, what on earth was I thinking when I wore that? So yeah, this one's an outright no for me. The next trend is the nautical influence. This one feels very safe, very classic, and I say many of us probably own the key item that really encapsulates, embodies this trend, the Breton striped top, which has apparently just increased exponentially in demand recently. So I suspect what we're going to see is a lot more Breton striped tops, and embellished in a way that feels overly nautical. And I suspect we'll also see the appearance of those gold buttons with the anchors on it, on trousers, on jackets, the epaulettes, sort of that slight military element with the epaulettes on the shoulders. But I imagine that is how it is going to come through. And there are two ways that this can play out. You either buy something that sort of is a nod to the trend, but it doesn't feel so obvious. It feels a little bit more subtle. Like, hi, I could be participating in this trend, but maybe I'm not. Or you buy something that almost feels like a caricature of this trend, and you put it on and you feel like you should be a sailor going out to sea. So I think that's one of the things you need to ask yourself is this a statement piece that I see myself wearing beyond the season? Is this something that will enhance my personal style if it's a little bit more classic? And do I already have something like this that maybe isn't quite so nautically inclined, but has those elements that make me feel like I can still be involved? This one, I don't even know how it's a trend, the little white tank. I mean, I think we already all have one of these in our wardrobes. I think what we're going to see is a lot more different necklines, like really low, deep necklines, crop tanks, fitted, loose, the sort of a whole mix across the spectrum. I'm wondering if we'll also see that return of the logo, but in a slightly more subtle way. Maybe it's in a white embroidery, so it doesn't quite scream or jump out at you, but this is the biggest non-trend on this list. And if you already have one, you don't need to buy another. Bags with personality is the next trend, and this is an interesting one to me because I think there are absolutely elements of this that I really agree with. I think you can have a really nice, simple outfit, and then you can dial it up with your bag. And this is one of the secrets, I think, to having really good style, is leaning in on how are we making a statement with our clothing? And the bag being that one element, that one focal element, can be a very fun way to play around with your style. Though again, you may already have something like this. The way we're going to see this translated in stores is probably going to be very interesting textures, some interesting colors, and also probably really interesting shapes, things that are slightly organic, that kind of are angular, geometric. So bags that maybe aren't going to be the most practical. And that really is the thing, right? We don't want to be buying bags that do not suit our lifestyle. We want them to actually work for us, and we want them to fit our things in them and then not have to give it a second thought. We also want our bags to go with everything that we own. So I feel like if it doesn't fit into those two categories and it's not something that you are thinking about buying as only a sometimes piece, it's an absolute no. I feel like athletic influences is going to be a reasonably big trend, especially because of our desire to be comfortable in our clothing. And I am predicting that the next big jacket is going to be something sportswear inclined. So whether that is a varsity bomber jacket, so it has that kind of more preppy feel, or whether it is something like a windbreaker, but that has more of a modern touch. So it's really stylistic and overly designed as opposed to that classic windbreaker that we've maybe seen in the past. And the reason why I say this is because right now we currently have the leather jacket, the suede shirt trending. We also have the barn jacket, which has kind of been the biggest it jacket of recent times. So I feel like we're going to see that shift to something new and something that will be more spring summer appropriate. I think you need to ask yourself the question, how often am I going to wear this, especially in spring? I mean, if you live somewhere really warm, probably hardly ever. And so then you need to ask, am I going to wear this the following transitional season? And if not, then it is absolutely a miss. Some of the other things that we're seeing coming through are those rugby jerseys. I've seen a lot of this, particularly in the stripe. This really takes me back to when I was younger. I'm not a fan of a polo, just FYI, this is personal taste, but I don't really love polos at all on women or on men. And I think rugby jerseys kind of just lean into that vibe for me. It's the collar detail. It's not my favorite, not my preferred. And I think also these have such a striking graphic element to them that they can feel like a really big part of your wardrobe, and really it's a small part. And I think that is really the problem sometimes with statement pieces, is if they are too loud, they feel like they're shouting at you all the time, and all of your other more simplified items are kind of just quietly sitting in the background. So that's kind of my take on that. I think we are going to be seeing a slightly different silhouette for polos though, something that is a little bit more form-fitting and cut closer to the body, that feels a bit more modern. Okay, the unnecessary layer, you can see, again, going back to the 90s, this real nostalgic element, the skirt over trousers, the dress over trousers, basically the thing that we don't really need in our outfit, but it's giving us interesting proportions. And I think this leans into our desire to create something interesting and create something that looks really unique. And I'm not really mad about this one. I have tried this myself. I actually really like this look when wearing a tunic dress, especially something that maybe has buttons to the side so that you can reveal a little bit more of the trouser. But I think that when done well, this works. You probably already have the ingredients to kind of pull this look off in your wardrobe already if you want to partake. And I will say that I do think that this more interesting way of layering can be one of those, I suppose, elements that add to your personal style, but the key is to making sure that it is really authentic and genuine. If you are buying anything new, make sure it's something that you can wear without the trousers underneath. Solo, something that you can wear completely separate to the trend. So that would be my only advice here. Thong sandals, or I'm going to call them flip-flops because I grew up in New Zealand and that's how I would describe it. I have seen a lot of conversation, a lot of chatter about how flip-flops are going to be the new it shoe for summer. This is actually something I'm quite happy about because I live down under and you probably already have a pair in your wardrobe. I have a couple of leather pairs and I've got a rubber pair for wearing down to the beach. So this feels very approachable, very easy. I think here the key is to think about how, if you're incorporating this into your outfit, how does it actually work with what you're wearing? Is it working with it or is it working against it? Is it creating tension in some way? Is it actually visually interesting to you? Are you wearing them because they're functional and you're trying to be pragmatic? But I think if you're not a flip-flop girl, you don't need a pair of flip-flops. I think there are so many other beautiful sandals out there that you can add into your wardrobe that are going to make you feel really stylish, and buying the trend thing is not going to be the answer. And that really is my overarching opinion on the entire trend conversation. I have one more trend I wanted to mention, and that is asymmetry. And I think that this can be a really interesting way to play with proportions and shape But I think the way that we're seeing it translated on the runway is a little bit more unusual, a little bit more off beat, and it feels very kind of heavily styled. So thinking the one leg pant, or you kind of have these pants which have a skirt that's attached but it's just on the one side, and that kind of leads into that other trend around layering dresses with trousers. But I think that this is one that it feels so high risk because it's a little bit more avant-garde, and if that's not your personal style, you're never going to feel comfortable in this trend. Yeah, and I think really when I look at trends, and also having done that recent style evolution where I looked at how my style has evolved over the years, I'm gonna link that in the cards up here. My main takeaway is that we really underestimate the power of trends in influencing our style choices. And it goes without saying, but a huge part of what we actually are buying and adding to our wardrobe is really revolving around what is available to us in that moment. So we buy what we like in that moment, and it may be part of a trend, maybe it is something that we consider timeless. But when you look at style over the years, like think about in the 70s, we had a decade of people wearing bell-bottom jeans, and that seemed like a timeless element. But the timeless piece was the jean, just the silhouette was not the timeless element. So I think that that is something to kind of think about and consider when you are sort of looking at your wardrobe, and not to take it so seriously. I think sometimes it can feel like there's a lot of pressure to really nail your personal style, understand what your words are, how you would describe it. But the reality is that our style is an evolution, it is a journey, it is an open-ended conversation. There is not a destination in mind, because we're going to keep traveling and our style will keep traveling with us. And a lot of this comes down to the different seasons in our life. Also our propensity for risk, which is going to be greater when we're younger and less so when we're older, which is probably why you might notice, especially in your own evolution, that you went from wearing things that were a lot bolder and brighter and then you dialed it down. And of course there are always exceptions, and obviously this kind of plays into that sense of self-expression, right? So I wanted to chat about some strategies that you can use to really hone in on your personal style and actually just feel really happy and confident in the clothing that you have. And one thing I was saying to a styling client recently is that all of these trends, in the end, they don't really matter. What you're seeing in terms of conversation online, even what I'm saying, it doesn't really matter. As long as you feel happy, confident and comfortable in the clothes that you're wearing, that is the end goal. It doesn't really matter what outsiders think, because you're the one who is wearing the clothes. It's your wardrobe, it's your money, and you're the one determining how you're going to spend it. So the first thing is that I really encourage you, if you don't do this already, to actually spend some time in your wardrobe and make time to play around. You see this a lot with people who are really passionate about makeup. They'll do something called makeup playtime, where they spend time creating looks and playing around with makeup, but maybe they're not intending to actually wear it that day. And I encourage you to try the same thing out with your clothing. Maybe pick a couple of key pieces and figure out some of the different ways that you can style it. And also think outside the box. So think, what other elements do I have in my wardrobe and how could I wear them slightly differently than their intended purpose? And these sort of style hacks, I think when you come up with them on your own rather than being shown them and then going, oh, I'm going to do that, that feels a lot more organic and also more reflective of who you are as a person. And I think many of us are seeking a quick fix, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it really can help, and it can help you to hone in on what you do and don't like. But I do think that there is something magic about discovering the trick for yourself. The next thing that I think is really helpful when it comes to honing in on your personal style is having some sort of cohesion and some sort of a story to tell in your wardrobe, whether that's through the type of shapes and silhouettes. So perhaps you're someone who really loves more of a softer shape on yourself, and really identifying that and realizing that's what you seek out. That is going to give you so much more clarity when you go to the shops. So it could be that you really like a lot of structure, so you're seeking out things that have really solid and defined shapes and also really angular elements to it, and that can be reflected in your shoes and your choice of bag as well. Perhaps what you're seeking out are fabrications that convey a certain type of mood, and you're noticing a lot of that in your wardrobe, so that could be really nice soft linens and cotton lawn fabrics, or things that feel really opulent and special, so a lot of sort of beautiful silks and brocade fabrics. The final tip I wanted to mention, because I want to do a larger discussion around this, is to actually identify the proportions that you feel most comfortable in and really lean in on that. I think that there is something great about repeating an outfit, repeating a formula that works for you. It is going to make you feel confident because you know that it works, you know you've tried it before, and it's kind of the bee's knees, cat's pajamas. It just is the thing that makes you kind of glow from within, and that confidence really does come through when you are talking to other people, when you're walking around. People notice it, and that is when you're going to get the most compliments. I think on from this, if you are someone who doesn't have time to kind of do any wardrobe playtime, I recommend potentially seeking out a stylist so they can come into your wardrobe with a completely fresh set of eyes and look at things differently to how you are and give you some recommendations and suggestions based on what you tell them you like to wear already. So rather than reinventing the wheel, they can go, oh, well, have you thought about doing this? Or have you thought about how these items in your wardrobe actually have a lot of harmony and can work together? And that can give you a renewed sense of excitement for your wardrobe. Obviously that comes with a cost associated, but that can be another option, especially if you find the right stylist for you who really understands where you want to go with your wardrobe. So there you have it, a little bit of a discussion today around trends, around how these items are not going to be the thing that make you stylish. It's actually playing in your wardrobe and becoming besties with the things that you own. You know, we don't buy good ingredients and then expect our food to taste phenomenal. We actually need to know how to use them. Same thing goes with our wardrobe and any tools that we bring in. But yeah, thank you so much for spending some of your day with me, having a little bit of a conversation. I would really love to continue it down in the comments, so please leave your thoughts down below. If you want to see any specific videos on anything that I mentioned today, then please do let me know. I'm always here for the requests, and I will see you very soon with a brand new one. Thanks for watching. Bye.